Welcome to this explainer. Okay, if you think that cocktail or glass of wine you had the other night is just some modern indulgence, you're in for a serious surprise. Today, we're taking a trip way back in time to uncover the actual historical foundations of alcoholic beverages. And spoiler alert, these drinks literally helped build human civilization.
So let's just dive right in and challenge basically everything you thought you knew. Why did ancient humans really drink? I mean, it's so easy to look at history through our own modern lens, right? We kind of just assume our ancestors cracked open a cold one for the exact same reasons we do, to kick off the weekend. But the truth is way more complex, and it's fundamentally tied to basic human existence.
It completely flips our perspective when you really look at it. Today, we view drinking as a recreational thing, right? A weekend celebration, a way to socialize. But the ancient reality was vastly different. We're talking daily survival, safe hydration, nutritional necessity, and even sacred duty. Long before the modern hospitality industry was a thing, fermented beverages weren't just an option on a menu. In a lot of cases, they were an absolute requirement just for staying alive and keeping society functioning.
We're going to explore this incredible journey across 5 main pillars. Number 1, survival, nutrition and medicine. 2, the divine drink, religion. 3, Xenia, the sacred hospitality. 4, society and celebrations. And 5, the global reach, trade and diplomacy.
All right, moving to Section 1, Survival, looking specifically at nutrition and medicine. Just imagine living in an ancient world where you absolutely couldn't just turn on a tap for a glass of water, mostly because it was contaminated with harmful microorganisms that could literally kill you.
So, early beer was essentially the ultimate life hack for this deadly water problem. Because the natural fermentation process stopped harmful bacteria from growing, fermented drinks were just way safer to consume. But it wasn't just about staying hydrated. Early beer was actually pretty low in alcohol, but packed with carbohydrates, vitamins, minerals, and calories. It was quite literally liquid bread. Get this, the laborers building the Great Pyramids in Egypt were actually given beer as part of their daily food rations. It gave them the vital energy and the safe hydration they desperately needed for those grueling hours of physical labor out in the baking sun.
And alcohol was also the absolute bedrock of early healthcare. Hippocrates, the father of medicine himself, famously said, "Wine is an appropriate article for mankind, both for the healthy body and for the ailing man." Way before we had modern pharmacies, doctors were literally prescribing wine to treat digestive issues, disinfect wounds, lower fevers, and even relieve pain. They'd even soak herbs in wine to create medicinal infusions, believing the alcohol actually boosted the healing power of the plants. And it makes total sense when you think about it. Obviously, we don't prescribe a Cabernet for a fever today, but alcohol is still a super important solvent and disinfectant in the modern medicines and hand sanitizers we use right now.
Okay, on to Section 2, the divine drink and its role in religion. Let's look at how this evolved from just basic physical survival into something deeply spiritual.
You have to remember, ancient peoples had zero concept of microbiology or yeast. So watching fruit juice naturally bubble and transform into this mind-altering beverage, it honestly seemed like pure magic. Because the fermentation process was this totally unexplained mystery, early civilizations viewed these drinks as literal gifts from the gods. They became a massive cornerstone of religious sacraments all over the world. The ancient Egyptians offered wine in rituals honoring their deities, the Greeks dedicated it to Dionysus, the god of wine and celebration, the Romans worshiped Bacchus as the symbol of wine and fertility, and in Christianity, wine became, and still is today, a profoundly important sacramental beverage during the Holy Eucharist. It's crazy how that spiritual significance has remained so incredibly consistent over thousands of years.
Which brings us to Section 3, Xenia, the sacred hospitality. This spiritual reverence didn't just stay confined to temples. It evolved into a huge philosophical duty.
I absolutely love this concept. Xenia was the ancient Greek sacred duty of hospitality. Basically, if a stranger showed up at your door, the gods required you to welcome them in. You had to provide food, wine, shelter, and protection. And the wildest part? You were expected to do all of this before you were even allowed to ask their name or why they were traveling. No questions asked. This incredibly deep-rooted cultural mandate is the exact foundation for the modern hospitality principles you experience in every single hotel and restaurant today.
You can actually see this on ancient artifacts, showing hosts graciously pouring wine for travelers. Back then, offering food and a fermented drink was the ultimate symbol of generosity and respect. If you refused to provide these refreshments to a visitor, well, that wasn't just considered a little bit rude, it was a massively dishonorable violation of a sacred trust. So when a bartender welcomes you warmly today and hooks you up with a great experience, they are literally carrying on a sacred, ancient tradition.
Let's move to Section 4, Society and Celebrations. Because beyond just welcoming passing strangers, these beverages became the ultimate social glue for entire communities.
As human societies started getting more organized, sharing a drink became a very structured way to bond during major life events. We're talking Step 1, agricultural harvest festivals where people gave thanks for the crops. Then, Step 2, it evolved into community and family rites, things like weddings and births. And finally, Step 3, scaling all the way up to grand public triumphs and massive military victories. Whether it was an ancient farmer celebrating a bumper crop or a Roman citizen cheering on a victorious general, sharing these drinks really strengthened social ties, helped resolve conflicts, and completely reinforced a shared community identity.
And finally, Section 5, the global reach, exploring trade and diplomacy. Let's zoom out a bit and see how these local agricultural products actually ended up shaping global economics.
Because these beverages definitely didn't just stay in the local villages where they were brewed. Over time, ancient trade routes turned regional specialties into billion-dollar international commodities. Think about it. Scotland gave the world Scotch whiskey. France exported champagne and Bordeaux. Mexico produced tequila. Japan perfected sake. And the Philippines traded Tanduay rum and lambanog, which is this amazing traditional distilled spirit made from coconut sap. The global trade of these drinks totally transformed economic development, agriculture, and commerce. And today, these famous beverages do way more than just generate money. They literally define national identities and drive massive global tourism.
And at the absolute highest levels of power, alcohol essentially became a tool of statecraft. Rulers actively used premium, imported beverages during really high-stakes political negotiations. Sharing wine was this universal symbol of peace, friendship, and mutual respect between nations. But let's be real, it was also a massive flex. Kings and queens threw these lavish royal banquets featuring the absolute most expensive wines and imported spirits specifically to impress foreign diplomats and show off their immense wealth and power. And that hasn't really changed. Modern state dinners still feature carefully selected wines to honor visiting leaders. It is quite literally liquid diplomacy.
So that brings us to a final thought for you to chew on. When you order your next beverage, are you just buying a drink? Or are you partaking in thousands of years of human survival, sacred duty, and civilization? Every single time you raise a glass, you're actually connecting to the laborers who built the pyramids, those ancient doctors who healed the sick, the Greek hosts who welcomed strangers, and the diplomats who forged peace. I really hope this explainer leaves you with a profound new appreciation for the absolute historical weight sitting right there in your glass. Thanks so much for joining me, and keep exploring.